Greetings. Welcome to TheQueenElle LLC. This is Queen Elle. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today's video is about the upcoming Mercury retrograde. So if you have not seen my previous video about the upcoming week in astrology, or really the current week in astrology, then I will link that above so you can check that out, and that is this week of April 17th. So we have several transits taking place, different aspects. Not as much as previous weeks, but the ones that we do have were pretty major. So if you have not checked out my my most recent video, which is about the new moon solar eclipse, the pretty rare hybrid solar eclipse, then I will link that above so you can check that out. That video should have posted yesterday, so you can check that out and learn more about that energy. But we do have this Mercury retrograde in Taurus taking place. Now, we've been in the shadow period, and so another video to link. I'll link my shadow period video that I posted about a week or so ago. So we've been in the shadow period for Mercury retrograde since approximately April 7th. And the actual retrograde is taking place on April 21st, and then it will last until May 14th. And then we'll have a shadow period for some time after that. So what is Mercury retrograde? Mercury retrograde essentially is, so you know how every planet goes on its orbit around the sun, and when there's a planet in retrograde, from what we can see from our perspective here on Earth, it looks like the planet essentially starts moving in reverse along its orbit, but just in the opposite direction. So if the planets are moving in a clockwise fashion, it starts moving in counterclockwise. And depending on the length of time that each planet's orbit is, that will ultimately determine or impact the length of time for the retrograde as well. So Mercury's orbit is pretty quick, as being, it being so close to the sun. So its retrograde time period is fairly quick as well, about 3.5 weeks or so. So like I said, the official Mercury retrograde is from April 21st to May 14th. So that's about 3 weeks. But we then have those shadow periods before and after. And the shadow periods just mean that even though the planet is only prepping to go in retrograde, the energy of the retrograde may still be felt. So it won't be as strong as during the actual retrograde, but it will still be felt. Okay? And depending on what sign Mercury is in, that's what will impact how different people feel that energy as well. So like I said, Mercury is in the sign of Taurus. So again, Mercury is also our communication planet. So that affects how we're feeling the energy as well. Now, with regard to communication, it's not just verbal communication, but written communication. So contractual agreements, arrangements that you make, plans that you make. This retrograde affects all of that. And so as soon as people hear retrograde, specifically Mercury, because there are more retrogrades in Mercury throughout the year than other planets, again, since that orbit is so short, you hear people saying it with like, oh, just like, woe is me, it's Mercury retrograde, or, oh, I'm having like a lot of conflict with people, it's because it's Mercury retrograde. Almost in the sense of it being like a crutch, and it shouldn't be. I say with regard to astrology that there are no negative things. There are just some complicated times, complicated days, etc. And I will say with regard to Mercury retrograde, you just have to work it in your favor. Work it so that it doesn't work you. Okay? Now, I will say, and I always give this advice, that if we're talking about, recommended days for different activities, no, it's definitely not recommended. If you can swing it, it's not recommended to enter into a new contract, sign any new documentation, start a new venture, a new business. Starting things If you can control it, starting things outside of Mercury retrograde would be the most optimal. And the reason is because there could be some confusion. You know, if you're signing a contract, let's say you can't avoid this timing. You're like, you know, I am not able to plan my life around the cosmos. I'm not able to, you know, align myself in that way. You know, I have business dealings, I have personal things going on. I totally get it. But what that means is, I mean, make sure, even if you read over your contracts with a fine tooth comb, normally you really have got to truly peruse it like letter by letter during Mercury retrograde. You've got to make sure that, you know, if you give it a once over, you know, glancing over it twice, go over it one more time just to be on the safe side. Read all that fine print during Mercury retrograde. If you are met with some sort of conflict or resistance with someone in the way that they communicate to you, or just the manner of people communicating, if you feel like people are, you know, just coming at you sideways during Mercury retrograde, you kind of have to put it into perspective. No, you know, everybody doesn't necessarily have to get a pass because it's Mercury retrograde. It doesn't give people, you know, free will or green light to act, you know, stupid because it's Mercury retrograde. But if something happens, just understand why. If you're starting to feel like, you know, the communication is a bit off, it's just, you know, helpful to look at the timing of when that happens and just kind of think to yourself, okay, well, it could be because of this. It could just be that person just being an idiot. But it could be because of the influence that occurs during Mercury retrograde. So make sure, with regard to how you communicate, since that is really all we can control, make sure that you know, communicate in the most effective way that you can. You know, if you're typically someone that feels that you have a firm grasp on how you interact with others, just be a bit more thoughtful and a bit more mindful of that communication during this time. Okay. Now, I'm going to pull a few cards to see if there's some areas that we should focus on. I would recommend, you know, I mentioned the people who have the sign of this aspect. So Mercury retrograde taking place in the sign of Taurus. Definitely the earth signs have it. And so if you're not an earth sign as your sun sign, it might not affect you as much, but I would look at those Mercury placements. Look in your birth or natal chart for your Mercury placement to find out what house you have Mercury in, because that may affect any area that you may see some sort of resistance or conflict with regard to this Mercury retrograde. And let's say you have, you know, your Venus is in Taurus. Well, because this Mercury retrograde is in Taurus, I would essentially, you know, look at those areas as well. I mean, there's just, you know, may or may not be surprised. There's just so many different ways that these aspects can influence us and affect us. And so it's like never a dull moment when it comes to astrology. So I have my Modern Witch Tarot deck. I'm going to pull a few cards, see what Spirit says with regard to this Mercury retrograde energy. And I'll continue to talk about it if Mercury has any sort of impact with other planets. I'm looking at my notes here. I already see Mercury in Taurus sextile Mars in Cancer. That's taking place on April 23rd. Sextile, if you have not checked out my planetary aspects video, I will link that above. But sextile is where energies blend and converge with each other. Mars is our planet of action and just putting things into motion and being on a mission about things, okay? And so Mars in Cancer, that's some free-flowing, you know, motion. But Mercury in Taurus, again, since we know it will already be in retrograde at that point, so that retrograde Mercury in Taurus being sextile Mars in Cancer, that means that even though Mercury is in retrograde at that point, sextile is still energies working together. And so things that you have in motion. Let's say you have an important meeting or, a conversation that you already planned to have with someone, an engagement where you had to speak already, and it's set for April 23rd or anytime right around that time. Just rest assured that the energies will be working in your favor, even though we're in Mercury retrograde, okay? So let's see. Okay, we have the Knight of Wands upright, so that's great energy. Knight of Wands, it's actually putting things into motion. All of the Knight cards, if or if not you're familiar with tarot, the Knight cards are always, it's some new energy, but they're always riding a horse. There's always, a sense of motion, a sense of just forward thinking, forward movement. The wands are all about our plans, our ideas, our just the things that we have set into place. And so that new moon energy taking place right before we get to this time with the Mercury retrograde, it's all about knowing that, the things that you have set into place, not to fret or to think that, okay, I've set these, plans into motion, my intentions in place, and now, I'm dealing with Mercury retrograde. This is giving you confirmation that those things that you have set into place, Mercury retrograde is not going to hinder what you have set into place already. You just really have to be mindful about the energy that might be presenting itself around the next few weeks. Okay, so let's see the next card. All right, we got a lot of wine energy here. Six of Wands. So this is, there's a sense of community here with regard to the plans that we have in place. It's more of that putting plans into motion energy. Do not use this Mercury retrograde time to retreat, but you can use it to commune with others, with your community. Your community could be your spirit team, your spirit guides, your ancestors, because that's your personal team, right? If that's what you feel so inclined to do, is to just, hunker down with that team and commune with them during this Mercury retrograde to feel a better sense of self and to feel more connected and to feel more aligned, then do that. If what gives you peace is connecting with your spiritual community, do that. If it's more about connecting more with your family, do that. It's all about your wellness and what gives you peace. Okay, so last card, let's see. Okay, and this is the Ten of Swords card. Now, in the Modern Witch Tarot deck, I love it. They have some interchangeable cards, just two. The two interchangeable cards are the Ten of Swords, where it says Ten of Swords on the bottom, and then they have another card that you can replace it with, and I like to do that. And this card says everything is fine. So, yes, the image is, it's a lot. It looks like, obviously, like she has been through a battle and she lost it, okay? But everything is fine, is not there just for show. It's there to let you know that even if you feel down for the count, even if you feel like, I've just been through it, you might say, okay, I look like I've been through it. I feel exhausted, worn out, like I've been through it, but it's all for your betterment. It's all for your wellness. We have Pluto entering into the sign of Aquarius. And yes, Pluto will be going into retrograde on May 1st, but Pluto's all about rebirth, regeneration. We are entering into a new era. We are evolving. And just know that some walls have to come down in our life in order to rebuild. Okay? Sometimes those things that we have, confined ourselves in, those constraints that we have been so rigid that they need to come down. Those old beliefs, old ways of doing, of being. We need to, release those things in order to elevate and to evolve and to see ourselves in that next level. So just know that with this Mercury retrograde that you may feel like, you're going through it or you've been through it and wonder, when will it end? When will I see the other side? But the spirit guides, our spirit, the spirit realm, our ancestors, they are saying via a confirmation that all is well. You might not feel it, but all is well. All will be well because they can see things that we cannot. Okay. And so it's important to know that even when we're seeing just what we've been faced with, what's in front of us right now in this moment, that just around the bend, just on the other side, we will see the sunshine, we will see the peace that we seek, we will be able to manifest those intentions that we're setting in place. We will be able to see those dreams realized and see those plans come to fruition. Okay, so I'm going to also pull one of my African Goddess Rising Oracle cards. So let's give it a quick shuffle and see what else we have here. Okay. All right, we have Sarah Lakali, Divine Lineage. This goes back to what I was saying, just that confirmation from our spirit guides, just letting us know this divine lineage is saying that not only is it already done, everything is already prepared for us to manifest, the manifestation, the things that we desire. Once you affirm it, it's done. Once you claim it, it's yours. But you are a part of a divine lineage. And this divine lineage is telling you that from the ancestral realm, that it is done. It's done. You come from greatness, a line of great people, of warriors who are here to battle things out. You may feel like you're down, but see this phone here? Everything is so symbolic. They're communicating to you, communicating through you, just letting you know that even when you feel down, when you feel out of it, when you feel defeated, that they are here to lift us up so that we can make it through. Okay? So I hope that this video has been helpful to you. I will be in touch. Stay tuned. Peace. Ashe.